Long before his days of presenting thinly veiled magazine shows about cars and punching Irishmen, did you know newspaper columnist and human toffee apple Jeremy Clarkson had a brief stint as a video game journalist? Yes, he did! But was the vanguard of vehicles any good during his short tenure with the Pixel Paparazzi? Well, let's find out together, as hello there, I'm Guru Larry, and I welcome you to the world of Jeremy Clarkson, video game journalist.
It's games that Yanks can't whack.
In 1987, official CPC magazine, Amstrad Computer User, decided it needed an injection of freelance writers for various articles. Mainly as there's only so many times you can rephrase your system games aren't crappy Spectrum ports. So while searching for potential candidates, the magazine's editor, Simon Rockman, stumbled across a cherub-faced, curly-haired 27-year-old by the name of Jeremy Clarkson. Now, this was long before he became the TV presenting behemoth he is now. Around this time, Clarkson was mostly writing vehicle road tests for local newspapers and car magazines. So, while a little out of his comfort zone, Jezza wasn't the one to look a journalistic gift horse in the mouth with this gaming writing lark. In fact, Jeremy was so keen on becoming a regular writer, he actually bought an Amstrad CPC, albeit at cost price, from Amstrad Computer User, and was promptly sent a couple of games to review. Clarkson's first article, published in the September 1987 issue, is entitled Ball Games, and has Jeremy reviewing the Amstrad ports of various Breakout clones, namely the arcade classic Arkanoid, Gremlin's criminally overlooked Crackout, not to be confused with Konami's similar but differently spelled NES game, and finally the confusing and ultimately unplayable isometric mess Ballbreaker. At least that's what he's supposed to be doing. The article itself has insane amounts of padding, with the first half of the article pretty much entirely dedicated to Jeremy waffling on about having a gambling addiction, which eventually doesn't even segment into having a penchant for paddle games as you might expect, but drifts into talking about winning an Atari at a charity event and not being very good at real life sports instead. But he eventually goes on to say that he liked Arkanoid the best, uses the same Tangerine Dream reference twice describing Crackout's soundtrack, but does accurately describe how utterly annoying and unplayable Ballbreaker is. Anyone who's into terrible video games definitely needs to check it out. But speaking of terrible, it's astounding that Amstrad Computer User actually printed the article in its entirety, as it needs some severe amounts of trimming and was quite frustrating to get through. The odd screenshot to add context to the article would have been nice too, rather than those lines all over the place that look like the magazine's been squiggled on by a 3-year-old. But ever the resilient one, Jeremy had a second article printed, which was published 4 months later in the January 1988 issue. This time, it starts off with Mr. Clarkson not recalling ever hitting another person in his 27 years of being alive. But this article is entitled Fighting Games, where he takes a look at Palace Software's cult classic Barbarian, as well as 2 other titles, where the programmers decided that collision detection wasn't much of a priority in a fighting game, with the clunky and frustratingly slow pokey stick simulator Psy Combat, as well as Gremlin Graphics' misleading Samurai trilogy, that is neither based on the seminal Hiroshi Inagaki movies, nor is there 3 games on the tape, just 2 lanky Lego men desperately trying to pummel each other. Anyway, Jeremy couldn't get the game to work, so obviously doesn't review it. Possibly, the Samurai trilogy has an incredibly idiotic menu system where you have to press right to lock in your choice and then press the joystick button to progress for some obtuse reason. But he goes on to say that he likes Psy Combat, and especially Barbarian, giving fairly in-depth descriptions of both games mixed with the odd gag. Though the first page is once again buffed out, with him talking about not being bullied at school, television censor activist Mary Whitehouse, and going to see The Living Daylights at the local cinema. The article strangely ends rather abruptly, with no conclusion nor summary, making one think it was either poorly cut down to fit a double-page spread, or Jeremy just gave up. Either way, it was a much more enjoyable read than the first article. And that's all the articles he ever wrote. Just the 2. Well, he was commissioned to write a third, but he never submitted it. Jeremy was never commissioned to do any more, as, in the words of the editor Simon Rockman, neither were particularly good. Which is true. Clarkson is an excellent journalist in his own right, but he clearly has no interest nor knowledge in video games, and just pads them out by talking a load of old random bollocks about himself and 80s pop culture. Something I must confess of doing myself with articles I'm not really that interested in. Well, less so on the 80s pop culture part. Though in Mr. Clarkson's defence, his commissioned work was a little mismanaged. For example, why would you hire a guy known for exclusively writing about cars and never give him any racing games to review, which there was abundance of on the Amstrad, even in 1987? But I'm sure Jeremy being denied an exciting career in 8-bit home computing journalism was of little consequence to him, as later that same year he was given a presenting job on Top Gear, which he stayed at for the next 17 years and made £1 bajillion from. And on that bombshell, who knows? If things turned out differently, Jezza might have led a thrilling avocation reviewing forgettable video games on British home computers, instead of being the inspiration of every single video game TV show pitched in the past 15 years. It's Top Gear, but with games. But I've been Guru Larry. Good night. Hello, you. Thanks ever so much for watching. If you fancy checking out previous episodes in the Yanks series, why not click on those title cards on screen now? Or even subscribe to be first to know when a new episode is up. But I know a lot of you have been requesting more episodes of both this, Films Yanks Can't Wank, and Movie Mistakes, and my intention is to make these a far more regular series. My intention for all these shows have always been to give you 100% original videos, no recycled guff whatsoever, and provide you with content and information that's never been seen anywhere before, not just online, so you'll tune in just to learn something brand new. It's why these episodes have been so few and far between over the years, because of the insane amounts of research they require. So to make these shows more regular, I have set up a Patreon to help commit my time to these videos. Of course, the sole fact you even watch these videos is my greatest reward, something I can never be thankful enough for you guys. Bless you all. But if you ever feel like donating, it would really help me out and the future of the show big time. But thanks for listening to my e-begging diatribe. I feel bloody terrible doing it, but goodbye and good gaming.